Hello, everybody, and welcome to Thomas College Esports. That is right. We are back. That's right, your caster as well is back. I want to thank you real quick to Aquilian from the A team for stepping in the previous game that you guys witnessed, as I was out sick for a bit, but I am feeling good enough to come back and bring you the exciting game today that is going to be Thomas College B team versus St. Lawrence in the NECC finals match. That's right. Today, we are in the epic finals match between these two schools who have fought hard all season to make it to this point. It has been an honor to see them improve and play to their hardest to make it to this point. And today we will see if they will be able to bring home that trophy for the NECC finals against St. Lawrence. It's been an exciting time, and I am so thankful for all of those who have tuned in over the course of this semester, and even the previous seasons before, for this exciting game. As you all have watched us, you've joined us, you have watched as well to see them make it this far. It's going to be some exciting stuff. Whew. Excuse me if I have to take a second. And I'm still feeling a little bit under the weather, but it's fine. I wouldn't miss the finals for the world. I wouldn't miss this at all. So, for our lineup for Thomas College, we are going to have Pokey and Fuad on the side of DPS. That's right, Pokey, my main man on the Torbjorn. Even though it's kind of all he plays, he makes it work. He gets the job done. And that's all we could ask of him. We've got Fuad on the DPS role as well, filling in for that Reaper, for that Sombra, always in your back line, constantly messing things up for the enemy team. And then we've got Playmaster, the Baptiste Goat, on Kiriko, of course, as support, bringing up the back line, trying to keep his team alive and find those picks needed. And then we have Pranksters, the one, the only X Factor, helping him along the way. And normally we'd have Wumbus as well, but today we are going to be having Mars fill in on the tank for Wumbus. And Mars will be on that tank. But in order to speed things along, today we're going to be joined by our main man, Cargo Tokens, as the secondary broadcaster today.
Oh boy, I cannot wait to do color. It's Thomas College versus St. Lawrence. It's the finals!
It's the finals!
It's the finals! My voice cracked, I'm 23!
It's gonna be some exciting stuff, as I'm going to hit the Prod R because they are all ready. But it is going to be an Antarctic ban, as St. Lawrence is the one that had the ban as the away team in today's game. And Thomas is going to go with the Samoa pick.
I mean, Samoa, from the comps that I've been kind of seeing Thomas run, and even kind of playing with Thomas, because I stepped in for a practice or two, I think Samoa is a decent map comp for their like Torbjorn comps and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
As we see that we have Pokey in, and Pokey is going to be running that tour. I know literally nothing else that Pokey is going to be running. So,
I don't expect anything else.
Yeah, so now, I mean, now it's just going to be a case of what St. Lawrence runs. I mean, Thomas, I think, does kind of want to play that, like, kind of more poke style comp. It'll be interesting if they try and play, if St. Lawrence is going to be playing a brawl into it or a dive into it.
It's going to be interesting to see. And real quick, we'll just introduce the other team as I didn't get to that, but we're going to have Favored and Kushinada, I believe, on the DPS, if the lineups are kind of similar to how Thomas does it. We'll have Blackjack on the tank, Winter Red Bull, and Yashi on support for St. Lawrence. But we could see something different. Who knows?
Yeah, I never noticed on the map. Is that like a giant like FAP immortality on the right side?
On the right side? Like over
Yeah,
there?
it's like a giant lamp.
Kind of does, in a weird way. I've never actually taken a minute to look at the details, but there is a big old globe up there. They're doing something here on Samoa.
That looks like a brawl to me. That looks like a brawl to me.
Oh, that is a brawl for sure.
On the side of St. Lawrence. And Thomas coming out with the comp that I expected them to. Fuad on the Reaper. I think Reaper's a pretty solid pick. He definitely put some like pressure out onto this like backline. Though it's gonna be a pretty hard backline to attack with the Moira Kiriko.
Yeah,
that is very.
It's a pretty safe backline for the side of St. Lawrence.
It's very safe, but also like Moira does have to put herself into awkward positions to like heal the Sojourn and the Sombra. He kind of has to like now play with the Zarya, but the Juno can kind of play at a range and really let Mars on this ram engage. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here.
It is going to be, as both teams are going to come out here at the start. Fuad here trying to brawl with the rest of his team here. Kind of the whole point, if you ask me, of a brawl comp. They're kind of just going to brawl over point over this high ground here. Both teams trying to look for a nice hack. Well, St. Lawrence trying to look for a hack here. Fuad falling early as well as Mars. Not going to spell good for the side of Thomas College, as now they're going to be forced to back out here as St. Lawrence is going to get the first cap.
I think Pokey's turret positioning there was a little too passive. I mean, your team was trying to set up a kill box a little bit earlier up ahead, you know, to see the turret so far back and just get absolutely no damage is really disheartening. But again, Thomas is going to have a little bit of an advantage here in terms of like their ability to hopefully kind of close the distance against the St. Lawrence squad because they're running that Juno. But assuming they don't get pinched in right here.
Yep, they're going to go play for this high ground here. Mars going to get hacked off rip. Not the greatest hack target, but you can see Playmaster falling low. Fuad finding a nice pick onto Favored. Going to open up the angles a little bit as that Sombra is not going to be as much pressure for the side of Thomas. The turret as well in a little bit of a better position. You see Mars here trying to walk forward, trying to take some space, trying to brawl with Blackjack here. A little bit passive here, but Mars popping that form, popping it and going in, absolutely trying to brawl. Fuad following at 1 HP, you could say. But Thomas are able to get the flip. St. Lawrence at 42%. We do see the double support outs here, the Coalescence and the Rush, finding Playmaster and Pokey. Gonna make it a little hard for Thomas to do anything, as that's one support down. No ult, no counter rush. Yashi is going to get a beautiful quadra kill with that Coalescence on the Moira. Getting pretty much a team wipe with the assistance of his own team. But for Thomas, that is not going to be the greatest, as now they are worried about that 50% that is going up.
Yeah, I mean, Thomas had pretty much no ults online. I think they just probably got the rush right when like people were dying. But you do commit both support ults if you're St. Lawrence. So now there's potential for Mars's like Annihilation or Fuad's Death Blossom to kind of go crazy here. And Playmaster's going to have a great engage tool, probably going to be using it right now to engage the fight. Yeah.
Exactly, as you said it, they're going to have the Rush going in, as well as the Molten Core going in as well to cover the entire point. We do see I turn around as soon as a 4-man EMP goes off, as well as we do see Thomas still coming out on top of this fight here. Kushinada over here getting brawled by just a couple of members of Thomas, and Thomas at 80% for St. Lawrence is going to get the flip, even though they lost Pokey and Playmaster.
That's both DPS ults now used for the side of St. Lawrence. I mean, you're probably gonna have enough time to build another EMP before this round ends. But right now, Thomas is in a pretty comfortable position. Hopefully, Fuad can make something happen with this Death Blossom. And he doesn't just keep getting just annoyed by this Sombra, you know. And this what is it? The Grav is gonna be something that the entire team's gonna have to worry about, you know. Very susceptible to the Grav. The only thing they really have to counter is Bell and maybe like.
You do have the Juno ults. The Juno could happen. Fuad there was looking for a Death Blossom, as you saw, but he had to fade out, got a little bit too low. Now has to wait for the cooldowns, falling super low. No fade to protect himself is going to fall. That is the Death Blossom out of the play here. And Mars is going to fall just almost, maybe just a little bit. Has to form swap to get out. Pokey a little too far forward is going to fall as well. The point does get flipped back, 85% now in climbing. Thomas, even though they have this huge ult advantage, is looking a little desperate now. Mars kind of taking an off angle, no LOS if it supports. We are going to see Fuad go on this off angle here, trying to look for a Death Blossom. He's going to fade in. He's going to look for it. He's going to find one. Going to force another out as well. We have the Annihilation as well as the Juno ult coming out here. And it will be a clean team wipe, but now Thomas... That's 3 ults you had to commit.
Thomas did have to commit 3 ults that fight. I think actually it's a question of whether or not they. I mean, granted, you do get the grab out, and they're probably not going to get another grab before the map ends unless Blackjack gets fed a ton of damage. But now all you really have to do with maybe the Coalescence and the DPS ults coming back online. It's up probably now to Pokey to build a really good Torbjorn ult to counteract this Juno rush, and he needs to build it quick.
Very quick indeed, as you can see St. Lawrence here coming back. They're immediately looking for it. They're trying to make something happen. We do see Winter Red Bull falling a little bit low. Does fall to the E. That is a huge pick. But they're going to trade Kiri for Kiri. The aggressive Coalescence here from Yashi is going to find a couple of assistant picks here. And it's just going to be Mars on point now. It is just Mars on point fighting for his life. He has to do what he can, but the shield not coming up when he needs it. And now, 93% to 99. Overtime has ticked. They need someone to get back as quick as possible. Can Thomas touch Playmaster? Able to get on point with the Mora here. Is going to fall immediately. Had to sacrifice his life to get on point here. Pokey needs to build this ult here. The EMP coming out. Going to find a couple of people as well. And that's going to put Thomas in a desperate position as Mars is having to come in. Going to get hacked, though, into the Sombra. Not going to be able to find a lot here. The Overclock here coming out from Kushinada is going to find a little bit of value here, but there's only a couple of members left for Thomas, and as the overtime ticks down, it is going to be St. Lawrence who takes this first objective from Thomas in a nail-biting first round.
I mean, hey, that was pretty close. 193%. I would not get discouraged if you were Thomas. It was just kind of the case of just the ult economy just not really swinging in Thomas's favor. You know, just kind of, not on the back foot, I would say, but kind of having to play against, like, because you do get, like, both support ults out from St. Lawrence, but you still lose that fight. You get both DPS ults out them, granted you win that fight, you know? And it's, Torbjorn ult is a pretty decent ult, but it's so hard to just, like, get just pure value from. We talk about it a lot of times, like, grab can just be a fight-winning ult. All you really have to commit is grab and maybe one other thing, and it wins you the fight. Same with, like, EMP. Even Overclock, or, like, the Sojourn ult, if your Sojourn can hit those shots, but Torbolt is just kind of, it denies Curie Rush, you know? It can deny a team space. But I think these teams aren't. This team isn't so reliant on the Fury Rush. You know, they're pairing it with things. You know, so it's be interested. Ford actually on the Sombra here.
Yep, the Sombra mirror, but
some assassinations.
The Moira with the Sombra is going to make it really hard for him to find any pressure there. And Thomas already down one as the fight just begins. Thomas not looking good off the foot here, as we're going to see Pokey fall as well, and Thomas going to be forced to back up here. As, excuse me, both DPS are going to fall.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just like the power of Moira, really, because like she can be very hard for just a single DPS to assassinate, and especially when she also has her song there, it's even harder. I mean, the favored Fuad matchup, I think I favor favored.
Yep. Both teams here are going to walk in. We do see the speeder coming out. Blackjack falling 1 HP, 100 charge though. Prankster's going to fall super early. Not going to be good. Mars as well falling. That's so much damage from the Zarya coming out right now. Fuad going to have to translocate out, and Thomas is down again. 30% climbing.
Mars calling for that focus fire onto Blackjack, but not getting any of it, unfortunately. I mean, again, it's been so hard for Fuad to really make space here, because, like, Zarya isn't the best hack target. Like, you can't just, like, default to hacking the tank. In fact, I don't think really any of these are super amazing hack targets.
No, I would argue not. If you were playing a dive, you could make something happen, but with this more brawl-style comp that Thomas is running, the Sombra is going to have such a hard time getting value. The rush coming out from Playmaster here is they're going to just aggro on point completely. They're going for this backline. They find Winter Red Bull. They're going for Blackjack now, who has to use bubbles to try to save himself. Is not going to be able to do so. Pokey is going to fall to favor, but Fuad is going to find that trade, and it should give Thomas the point swap, as we do see it's going to be Yashi still staggering on point by himself, is able to get out, and managed to find 73%. Very hard to lock down indeed. As you can see, he's still able to get out and survive.
Yeah, but now Thomas has 4 ults coming their way, and whether or not, potentially using the grab, it's whether or not they choose to use all of them at the same time, is the question.
Here's the EMP, the rush, the overclock, the coalescence. They are throwing everything, and unfortunately Mars was the one in the front line who had to deal with it. They do manage to find Yashi in the backline, but they only get 23% as St. Lawrence is able to get the flip on the objective, and it's looking a little scary here for Thomas here on Samora.
St. Lawrence, but again, that grab can just be such a dominant kind of like fight winner. Mars had to commit his tank ult to try and make something happen before all those ults pop. Thomas will one more fight, but it's
the satellite vector coming out here.
Slightly challenging.
A 5-man EMP from Fuad! Is there going to be any picks off of that? There's not going to be any picks, but they managed to force them out and get the flip as 95% happens. The overtime has not triggered yet. The grab coming in, only finding the poor soul Pokey. They're going to be able to keep him alive. Fuwad's able to find Kushinada in the back line. It's going to be Mars in his form trying to find something, trying to make something happen. The hack is going to come off onto him as well as onto Blackjack, and it's just going to put St. Lawrence in a desperate position as now they don't have any ults. They do have some coming up, though, but Thomas still has ults of their own. They need some sustain for what's going to translocate out.
This is going to be so important.
This Torbolt is going to need to be huge to counter this Kiriko rush that is going to be coming their way right about now. As we do see Mars falling early is not what you need, though. The Molten Core can only do so much as well when he falls. They do have the rush that came out as well. Fuwad finding favor, but Playmaster's going to fall. And now it's 59% to 60, 61 to 96.
They don't get another touch.
Thomas is not going to be able to get another touch. And St. Lawrence is going to be your victors for this first map.
I mean, that's not the way. It doesn't take someone who knows Overwatch to tell you that that's not the way Thomas wanted to start the series. Granted, their previous series, they haven't looked, I'm just going to say it, amazing on Control, but then they bring them back to win 3-1 against the top seed, so...
Exactly. We saw that in the I believe the previous game. Yes.
Yeah. Thomas looks like, Thomas, unlike that previous series, Thomas didn't look kind of like a dead in the water. You know, they looked active. They were making plays. You know, Mars throwing himself in to try and make something happen with his annihilation into that 4-man attack, 4-ult attack by St. Lawrence, just to try and get some pick, get some kind of fire burning in Thomas's direction. But unfortunately, with the Sombra and the Torbjorn together, it is probably so hard for Mars to really get anything happening when he's brawling, because he's constantly chasing after a Kiriko who's going to teleport or bell away, chasing after a Warrior who's just going to fade away, chasing after a Sojourn who can slide, you know, chasing after a Sombra who can just TP out, and chasing after a Zarya who could just bubble herself, and also the Zarya is in the front line. So now, actually, I think we'll potentially be seeing a swap here for Thomas, potentially, possible. Or Mars just got disconnected.
Yeah, it could be, or just Mars got disconnected. Who knows?
I think Mars just got disconnected. We're looking at the lobby, just saw Mars disappear, and we're like, oh, he's getting subbed out. But no, I mean, I don't think Thomas played like a explicitly like bad during those fights. It's just like I think Zarya is a pretty kind of that Zarya is just such a hard, not a hard counter, but just a strong enough counter that it was hard for Thomas to make something happen.
Indeed, it was very hard, and I mean, even though St. Lawrence was throwing, honestly, at times 4 ultimates at Thomas's direction, they were still able to find those picks in between the ult charge that they were getting. So even though Thomas wasn't necessarily having bad ult economy, they just weren't able to find those picks early on to secure their win in the fight.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I think that's one of the powers of Torb is to really kind of get some surprising long range burst damage, because like that M1 is kind of a sniper rifle if you're able to hit it on those targets. But the problem is who is gonna, unless you kind of just keep hitting double taps, you're not gonna get you're probably not gonna get an elim off of it. But maybe you can force out a resource like Bell, get a headshot into a Kiriko or teleport.
Yeah, and sometimes that's all you need, because sometimes that could open up, for example, it could open up Fuwad or Mars to just kind of go in and punish that resource use.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't think played bad around the Grav, because Grav could definitely have been pretty devastating to Thomas if they had grouped up. I'm just imagining a world where it's not just Pokey gets caught up in it, but Thomas plays pretty split, intentionally or no, and no one, Pokey's able to live through the Grav, but unfortunately during that time, Thomas just kind of can't take full advantage of the space that they were making. We see a switch over to Circuit now, and that tells me Thomas is going to be playing Sigma, Baptiste, Zen, and then probably a Reaper Torb.
Yep, probably, as it was Hybrid or Escort for the map choice. Thomas decided to go with Escort as they were the ones who lost, so they got to choose the mode. St. Lawrence decided to ban Junkertown, which, I mean, is interesting. Maybe they just don't have the best luck on it, which is fine, but because of that...
They don't really... Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to talk.
No, you are so fine.
You don't want to play dive-ish comps, if that makes any sense, because Junkertown kind of plays itself into ball comps and diva comps, Winston comps. You don't really see a lot of, or I guess it also kind of says that you're interested in playing poke with Widowmaker. Some I think you even see Hanzo sometimes on Junkertown. Maybe it's the best, but
Yep.
So that kind of tells me
we actually are seeing a sub. Pokey is coming out, and Wumbus is going in, presumably on the DPS role.
Yes, I think Wumbus probably is there just because. I mean, no flack to either of the guys, but I think Wumbus just has a slightly greater, like larger hero roster. So in the case of like Torb doesn't work, let's say like if St. Lawrence brings out a Genji or a Pharah, or even Sojourn, three heroes who aren't that complex in the current meta and pretty hard counter Torb. Genji with his deflect, Pharah with her range, and Sojourn just being able to build charge off of your turret to then pump into other like more vulnerable sources. Then you kind of just don't want to be running Torb in that situation. But I think Wumbus can bring out like the Sojourns, the Cassidys, the Soldier 76s, the things the more kind of consistent DPSs, let's say.
Yes, the more consistent indeed. Could also just be a case where they throw Wumbus in and Mars is the one who goes onto the DPS role, but I doubt we're going to see that, as there it is. Mars' Sigma has been pretty good from what I've heard.
What, on the Venture? We've not seen the Venture yet tonight. Granted, we've only seen the Sombra and the Reaper, but that's kind of like the Fuad. Now we're getting the full Fuad special, It's the Venture, the Sombra, and the Reaper. With a little bit of Ash, which lasts for a life, and then he switches. But
exactly.
Wumbus, I wonder if they're on attack first. So I was gonna say, is Wumbus actually gonna stick on this Widowmaker? But I imagine he's probably just gonna go for a forward pick, and then if he gets it, yay, the Mei is dead.
And then if
he
not,
doesn't get it, he goes Sojourn.
Exactly. I'm very interested to see how St. Lawrence plays this brawl comp they got going on with this Mei Ramatra, as we don't normally see specifically even a Mei.
Yeah,
at least
Mei
here in the
Ramatra
beginning.
Can be a pretty strong power combo. The way that Mei can just give Ram prevent his targets from running away. That is
unfortunate.
Just getting hell.
Pretty sure it was just a right click. I'm pretty sure it was just a right click into the spam from him. We do see in the backline, Prankster's kind of fighting off a Moira right now. Want to see if Wumbus can.
He's not
it
getting
looks
off
like it's intentional
he's not
here.
getting off.
Oh, very close shot there. Not able to find anything, unfortunately. We do see Lamp getting committed there from Thomas' side. Fuad falling really low. This Mei's right click seemed to be doing a lot of damage.
Yeah, a lot more damage than probably two more. And when I say poke targets, I don't mean like Hanzo poke. I mean like the assassins. Sombra and Widowmaker. They're not frontline damage.
Yashi getting a little too aggressive there.
Able to find a kill astonishes me.
I think Yashi just got a little too over-aggressive there. Now there's one support down. Thomas is just going to be able to take so much space here.
Always put your shield away.
Now, Mars falling a little low. The lamp being forced out. Thomas is able to take a lot of space and get the cart moving. Fuad falling there. This Favored is not missing shots, if you ask me.
No, certainly not. And actually, Thomas using their lamp there and losing their Sombra, I don't think they're going to be able to take this first point. Actually, Mars, I stand corrected, already has Flux. And we already see Pranksters has his Transcendence, and Playmaster has Window.
We do see Mars coming out here with the Flux, able to find one, gets another in it. The Ice Block, Wumbus is going to fall, but that's fine, as if they were able to take care of the Ramatra on the backline with the Baptiste Window. And even though Thomas seemed to be in a kind of not so great position there, they were able to find the picks they needed and still get this cart progress moving.
That's just some classic Overwatch dynamics. You commit the rush in, and it just gets kind of countered like hard lockdown by the Sig Flux and the Window to kind of like break up anyone who got into that back line. I mean, Thomas is playing this great. Another pick by Favorite. He is currently just absolutely feeling it tonight. Wumbus and Fuad have been very, very quiet.
Yeah, they haven't really been able to do much. Fuad usually sometimes getting picked before the fight starts. While coming out to block that Widow shot, we do see Mars kind of getting brawled here by Blackjack. The lamp coming out from Thomas' side. We did see Yashi as well. We have seen the swap over to the Ana as well. Mars falling a little bit asleep there, but it's fine. Gets woken up immediately. We do have this Transcendence here, which is definitely going to be used to counter Blackjack. But you gotta wonder when that stuff's gonna happen.
We need to see.
Here comes the Blizzard. The Tranquility coming out in response to the Blizzard. But Mars got antied.
Yeah, an anti-nade, just awful. I mean, Wumbus, I think it's probably they're making the call for Wumbus to swap off a Widow. I mean,
the Widow hasn't really gotten much value.
He hasn't, contributed much to these team fights, and I think just a little bit of damage like that Torbjorn can be enough to kind of push Thomas over the line. I mean, they're making good progress. Don't get me wrong, but
yes, amazing progress. It's just this is
Mars
such
already
a
has
hard.
Another ult. My God.
Like I said, I'm pretty sure Sigma's been going crazy. We do see Favorite as well, swapping over to the Sombra. Fuad with the 4-man EMP! The rush coming out, though. Favorite's going to fall immediately. Nano coming out onto Blackjack as well. The Annihilation, the lamp coming down. He's just going to brawl. Yashi finds Fuad. Playmaster does fall to the ult as well. Wumbus shortly after, and it looks like there should be a fight win for St. Lawrence as Mars is going to fall next. And Prankster just had to get out.
That is heartbreaking if you're Thomas. Granted, you do get, I think, Favored uses.
Favored just swapped.
He swapped on the
But you still got Nano, you still got Kiriko Rush, you still got Annihilation from Blackjack.
You don't need to commit those that much resources if you're St. Lawrence. You know, Thomas, I think, is actually going to be able to probably force something with this. You know, at least Window will get them around this corner, and then kind of it's up to Thomas to see what they get after that.
They already do have the form swap out from Blackjack, but the lamp was committed. Wumbus finding Favored, but an anti-nade from Yashi is going to find Playmaster. And that's kind of not as good as a position as Thomas wants to be in with only a Zenyatta for healing. It's just not enough, and we will see Mars is going to fall here as well as Wumbus. And Fuad finds Yashi, which is going to give them a little bit of space to work with, but the rest of Thomas is already down.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just kind of comes down to timing. You know, like, Fuad is going for, like, these backline plays, which can be good, but it's kind of just leaving the rest of his team, like, high and dry. And again, like, I'm not sure that Torchwind is really the pick here. I would much rather see a Sojourn for her mobility and ability to kind of just farm stuff off of this ramp.
Yeah, I think a Sojourn would be an amazing pick here. Even just something a little more consistent than a Torbjorn, even. Where Torbjorn needs his turret to kind of make stuff happen. Playmaster committing the window here in front of that shield. We do see the rock coming out. Does find Blackjack. Let's stay on Kushinada here. We do find Mars falls immediately, but they trade tank for tank. It's still winnable technically. We do see the overclock coming out. They do find Favored, and Kushinada's gonna fall. Prankster finding a nice little double kill there. I'm in a building. And Thomas actually comes out on top of that fight there. Yashi just trying to get out with his life. Will manage to get around the corner, almost to another Nano here.
Come out on top, but yeah, I mean, granted, you do now have both support ults for St. Lawrence. Not only comes out on top, but also they get the Kiriko. Granted, can get back kind of quick, but that's a small window. If Thomas takes quick advantage of it, then they might get this Flux off for free.
No, here comes the rush. So the Flux coming out in response. Gets 2 people in it. 2 for Mars there. The Nano wanted the Kiriko, though, to try to sustain. They already lost Blackjack as well, and that's a wasted Nano, if you ask me. It's now Winter Red Bull is going to follow.
Nano and Rush.
Yeah. That's amazing if you're Thomas. You commit 1 ultimate there, and they commit 2, and still don't get anything.
I mean, that's kindergarten math, you know? You commit one's bigger than 2. Or one. Wait, what? Hang on. That's a good pick by Wumbus.
Yeah, good pick by Wumbus there, finding Sojourn, who is such a huge form of pressure for St. Lawrence that it's going to make it hard for them to kind of hold this corner now. As the cart is starting to make some slow progress. Maybe I spoke too soon. The cart's kind of moving a little slow. I'd love to see someone else get on the cart.
I think it's fine. Now it's actually a question of, make a poll in chat. Does one of the Sombras Ajax the other Sombra's EMP? Like
that's a good question.
I think the odds are high, and I'm gonna scream when it happens.
Yep, here comes the EMP. Maybe. No, he got scared, actually. Never mind, he did it. He goes back in and finds 4 people. But the counter EMP coming out from Favored is going to find 2. And it's going to be Favored who comes out on top in the EMP matchup.
I just think Fuad had to put himself in such an awful position there to actually get the EMP off. You know, like, he was away from the kind of like the comfort of his team. He kind of ran into like the forward spawn for the defenders there. You know, he just gets picked down by Blackjack. I mean, like, granted, yes, it's a big EMP, but his team wasn't there to follow up, and he had to put himself in a pretty bad position to do so, and commit so many resources to kind of make that happen. That, I mean, Mars's next ult's probably hopefully gonna have to go huge.
Yep, Mars has another Gravitic Flux here coming up from his. We do see Yashi here trying to take this off angle to build his ultimate as well. A Coalescence would go huge. We do see an aggressive Molten Core coming out from Wumbus over here, though. Able to give them just a little bit of space. Prankster's 1v1ing Yashi in the backline, absolutely dominating. Wumbus finds Kushinada as well through a window. And Thomas here has this aggression. The Kiriko Rush from Winter Red Bull coming out as well.
I mean, and no one on the side of Thomas can fall right now. I mean, this Transcendence cannot be denied.
This Transcendence is what's going to be the saving grace. They're able to find Favored, that's huge. The Gravitic Flux not finding anyone. Winter Red Bull TP's out. We do hear the Thomas with a C9 on the card.
Just heartbreaking.
That is heartbreaking if you're Thomas.
The Flux getting no one, then going into a C9 as everyone is Four people from Thomas try and kite back the
Annihilation.
The annihilation, while Mars tries to go for picks on the back line. Oh, it hurts. But Thomas, I mean, after being held on second for so long, I think they should be pretty happy with what they got.
Yeah, that was still a very good push right there up until the end. Even though it's a heartbreaking way to not get that full push.
You at least want to fight for it. I mean, the Sojourn, yes, had her ult, but like you still want to at least fight for it. I mean, in a perfect world, that Flux gets the Ram, that's able to take them down, and Thomas is able to make enough space.
And the Kiriko. It would have gotten the Kiriko too, Winter Red Bull, but Winter Red Bull was able to TP out before it goes off, which
unfortunately the only target in it.
Is unfortunate. But yeah, as the Coalescence came out, as the Overclock came out, Thomas was just kiting back as well from the Annihilation, and unfortunately, miscommunication led to a C9.
Yeah, unfortunate, but hey, I don't think Thomas might be. I mean, that's a little. It hurts a bit, but I hope it doesn't fry their mental. You know.
Exactly.
I don't think we'll see it. I don't. Actually, you know what? No, it's on Favored. Favored is hitting shots.
Yep, Favored is on the Ash.
You're gonna Pranksters, please. All right, good.
Trying to look for some early damage. Not pushed up enough, but we see a similar comp here coming out, just with the Ash instead of the Sombra. Gonna be interesting, as Thomas has a huge poke comp, especially with this Sombra, just being able to like set up things and find these this damage in these picks. They're kind of letting the cart get pushed a little bit too far here, but they're able to start contesting it now. Fuad being the one who contests the cart.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's gonna be up to Fuad and
Favored not missing those shots yet again, finding Playmaster.
I mean, you don't have a lot of like long range like threat if you're Thomas. You only have the Zen, who the Ash can probably avoid, and the Tor, who the Ash hopefully avoids. So it's Ash is kind of, even though you have a Sig Shield, this Ash is kind of like playing for free, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the Ash and the Soldier are definitely playing for fence, and now Thomas is going to be forced to back up as you see St. Lawrence here pushing with 3 members on the cart to get it here as fast as possible. They are able to find the Ash though. It's an amazing start. They should be able to get the hold here now, as we do see Mars taking some space, not able to find Blackjack with the accretion. And now Thomas has this space to work with, and they're going to be able to push them back just a little bit.
I mean, I appreciate Thomas taking space, but I'm a little worried they're not giving St. Lawrence enough respect. Mars getting so low, resources having to be committed just to keep him alive.
I agree. It's a little dangerous here. They just need to play this corner. Fuad getting hit with the dynamite. Going to translocate out. It's fine. It cleanses it. I think they just need to play this corner, play this doorway here specifically. And here we go. We do see the rush coming out. The rush coming out here, going to force Thomas back just a little bit. They need to hold this corner, though. Mars going to fall a little bit low. Not able to stop the Zarya beam from doing its damage. They need to stay on here. They might need to commit something. They commit Window and Flux here. Flux finding Winter Red Bull. Playmaster finding Favored. That's a couple of good, excellent picks. They are able to stop the cart. Blackjack does fall after finding a pick onto Mars. And now it's just Yashi and Kushinada who have to back out now, as the rest of their team has fallen, and Thomas still able to hold on.
When Thomas loses the tank and you get out both support ults, if you're... Actually, I think the support ult went onto a target who was dying. I think it probably went on the Kiriko and she probably hit the ground before the name really took effect.
Something like that happened.
You actually hold the Transcendence, which is super good for this graph, and hopefully Fuad's able to just shut down this Ash, because, like, you know, the hack will last the whole time in the Ash, and the Ash won't get the ball, but it won't get to do it.
Yeah, hopefully that is the case. We do see a Torbjorn ult coming up as well, which is just going to be perfect for denying some space if they need it. Blackjack falling a little bit low. The Torbjorn getting a lot of spam damage here.
Yeah, he builds his ult.
Here comes the Molten Core. The Bob going into the backline. We do see the Grav coming out with a lamp. Kushinada finding 2, though, as well as Favored's Bob finding the rest of Thomas, and I mean, that's just a cap.
You don't even get a chance to use your Zen ult, unfortunately.
Yeah, the Transcendence just not able to be there, as Kushinada just hit some shots. Favored just had the Bob there with that pressure, and they get the cap. Granted, that was a very good hold for Thomas.
Yeah, it was a good hold for Thomas. I think 3 minutes is definitely holdable, especially now because you have the ult. You have the ult advantage, because again, they had to commit 3 ults to win that fight, and they're decently far away from getting more, but also Thomas needs to be able to keep respecting these sniper sightlines. I mean, Fuad has to set himself up for EMP, and it has to be a good one.
It has to be a good one, as that's one of the only fight-winning loss they have. Pranksters here has this Transcendence, but it's going to be defensive. We do see Fuad setting up for it. Does find a hack, but they find Favorite and decide not to commit the ultimate, but Kushinada finding Fuad is going to even it up just a little bit. We do see Prankster's kind of on an off angle here, trying to find some picks of his own. Not able to find any, though. Wumbus in a little bit of a bad position there. Is going to get punished by Blackjack, who just walks over and finds him. The Nano coming out onto Blackjack. The Transcendence coming out to try to keep Mars alive, just so that way they can hold on to this objective just a little longer. Mars almost to another Gravitic Flux, but
another one.
With the rush coming out from Winter, Red Bull, a window to try to negate it just a little bit. This dude, the ante being huge there. No support from the rest of Thomas as they just fall. And St. Lawrence is going to just push it in here to the second checkpoint and begin their final push with 3 minutes and 40 seconds on the clock.
I mean, I know Fuad didn't want to commit that EMP there because like they had already gotten a pick. I actually think that could be like that kind of might determine this map. The lack of EMP there, because now you need to like full hold this corner, which is doable. We've seen Thomas do it before, but I mean, not Wumbus needs to kind of get out of that position and start playing with this team.
Yeah, I mean, he has his Zenyatta aura, but too many shots. I mean, St. Lawrence is definitely looking at him a little more, so it's going to be dangerous for him to stay there for too long. Fuad needs to look for this EMP now, otherwise it's not going to get as much value. The grab coming out, finding 4 people. The EMP coming out immediately after is going to find a couple bit of uses there. We do see Pranksters falling, but the EMP was pretty solid there.
Oh, he does the fire.
Favorite barely getting out with his life there.
Yeah. I mean, now it's, yeah, I mean, again, Mars, I mean, he's still holding on to this flux, you know, and like, granted, you know, you could do like a molten flux or something like that, you know, that could be pretty hard to take care of, I mean, with Bell, but Thomas needs to play this very, very carefully.
They do indeed. As Mars falling a little bit low, this overclock here, I'm waiting to see it come out here. Blackjack falling a little bit low, you can see on the top right. The Bob coming out, finds Mars in the air. Wumbus is going to fall. The Gravitic Flux not finding anyone, and he dies to the burn damage from Dynamite. Favorite finding another pick after that, and St. Lawrence finds the victory here on that fight, and they are into their final push. Thomas with only 1 fight left.
Thomas, I imagine you just gotta start throwing things at this. You know, you can't afford just to give this up for free.
And that's what they do. They throw out the window there. Playmaster trying to play for his life. Gets one.
Breaks the legs.
He does manage to get a little bit of space and pressure there, but they do have some ultimates to come back with. Prankster needs to come back. He is the only one with a defensive ult here coming into this overclock, which, as good as it can be, gotta have to see.
Fight this overclock for Thomas. I mean, do not let this Sojourn get a single pick. You know, the supports need to be aware of where they're positioned right now and not let that happen.
Yeah, a pick here onto Thomas would be devastating for them. They need to avoid that at all times. Here we go. We do see the Transcendence. A little bit scary. Better safe than sorry. Onto Mars with the overclock. They do find Kushinada, though. Shuts down the ultimate, but now there's a rush about to come their way from Winter Red Bull as they're going to wait for Kushinada to get back, but...
I'd be surprised if St. Lawrence uses this. I mean, why not just, like, wait for your person...
They're definitely not using it now.
Yeah, definitely not using it. I mean, if you're a Thomas fan, you kind of hope they use it now, but...
Yep, and a smart play here, kind of taking some space, trying to find something, make it happen.
Though that does give Thomas a slight window to now kind of build up their ultimates. Mars, I think, is probably Mars and Ford are the only ones probably going to be able to build their ults up in time.
I mean, they pretty much are, unless somehow Playmaster's able to get that much healing and damage combined, but I think it's all down to Mars and Fuad. If they can build these ultimates, the EMP and the Gravitic Flux. Here comes the rush onto the card, goes over the card. It's beautiful, it's perfect. Here goes Mars on point. He's trying to do something. The Gravitic Flux coming out. Finds no one yet again! That's unfortunate. That's exactly what you don't want to see. Fuad needs to build this EMP, needs to make it happen now. They are trying to find some picks. They are able to find Kushinada there. Playmaster as well. 10% to the ultimate. They are getting a little low here, but they do still have some time left. Playmaster with the window. Gonna commit it now. There's 15 seconds left. The grab coming out is gonna find It's gonna find Blackjack. Winter Red Bull falling as well. And now there's only 10 seconds remaining, and there's only a couple of members left from St. Lawrence. There's going to be some huge staggers here. Favorite is going to be the one to throw his body onto the card to get the overtime triggered, and it is triggered, and now it's just Kushinada going onto the point. Going to be able to do it a little bit longer. Kushinada go on, not going to find any picks, and it's just going to be left to whoever is still alive, but no one is left alive, and Thomas manages to hold on.
We got a series on our hands, baby!
Oh my god, we got a series on our hands. Woo-wee! Oh, beautiful final hold there from Thomas as they were getting very close to being 2-0 in this series already. By the way, for those who don't know, it is best of 7, not 5.
Yeah.
I have yet to mention that, but it's best to 7.
Well, as we all know, 5's bigger than 7, so
Exactly.
I'm not gonna be here that long.
So, but
What a nail-biting finish for Thomas. I mean, that definitely comes down to just getting, I think, that those picks, especially onto Kushinada, who Kushinada and Favorite are a scary DPS line.
Oh yes.
I mean, at least from this perspective, Favorite has been hitting those shots, and Kushinada just looks so consistent on that.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest point of contention. Like Wumpus and Fuad, I think had some great high highs that past map. Problem is, we also saw like Wumpus on Widow for the first point, so they built no ult charge when they inevitably switched over to Torb. Yeah. You know what? If it was a scrim, I wouldn't care. This is the finals. You gotta lock in.
There is no time to mess around with stuff. You need to lock in and try to win this as fast as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean,
so I think it's the consistency that would probably worry me if you're Thomas. Like Kushinada doesn't look like he's about to slow down anytime soon.
And now there's Favored.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw Favored on the Sombra, we saw Favored on the Mei, we saw Favored on the Ashe, consistent on all of them.
Yeah, and again, comparisons to Death of Happiness, Jared. But Mars, I think, is definitely kind of holding his own against Blackjack. I'm not sure. There's no neither of them I particularly favor in either matchup. Ram into Sig, is an interesting kind of case scenario. I mean, granted, when Favored was on that Mei, I didn't see too many Mei walls that especially limited Mars's flexibility. I think it all kind of came down to aim. But also, what is it? The backline, I gotta say, for Thomas and St. Lawrence have definitely been keeping their allies alive. I mean, I think this might come down to literally if Thomas knows how to deal with Moira.
I think it does, because Yashi on the Moira has been definitely playing a lot of more DPS-sided Moira, which is kind of where she gets a bit more of value, is by finding those aggressive off angles as well. Like, as you saw, I believe, on Samoa towards the beginning, when Fuad got picked off on Sombra, the Sombra and the Moira fighting another Sombra, I mean, that's exactly what you want.
Yeah.
So if Thomas is able to kind of mitigate the damage that the Moira can do, and force them onto that Ana pick a little more, it's going to be a lot better for them.
Ooh. I just saw a swap. Did you see that swap?
Yep, I saw the swap too.
Mars.
Yep.
But they're both in the game, you say. Well, now Wumbus is on tank and Mars is going over to that DPS slot. I imagine they want to run the ramp, and they want to have Wumbus in for that ramp so they can have Mars on the Sojourn.
I would agree.
Yeah, and we'll probably see Fuad still on either the Reaper or the Sojourn. I don't think we'll be seeing Venture. Because, I'm not sure why you'd want to run Venture, even if Sombra might be a bit shaky, or Reaper might not be getting the most value. I don't think Venture gets anything these compositions into the compositions that St. Lawrence is running. Kind of just feeds Zarya, and both support players can get away from you, and so can kind of both the DPS because they're pretty mobile.
Pretty mobile indeed. As Samoa is going to be our next map.
Samoa.
Not Samoa, Saravasa. There's a lot of S's, alright? It's been a long day. I'm still a little bit sick.
Samoa. That's the only.
What's the difference? They both involve capturing the point.
True. There's a timer.
Yep, there's a timer.
We've seen the Shunka Queen. We saw a flash of it during the circuit setup, and I didn't want to say anything about it. When they're on their attack.
Yeah, we saw it a tiny bit, but
switching over to the Zarya.
Probably onto the Zarya.
They're not gonna play Lifeweaver, right?
No, that's just the X Factor being the troll that he is sometimes.
They're not actually gonna play the Wife Lever.
He's just being funny, right?
I don't think he's being funny.
Right? He's just being funny. Yeah, he's being funny. Okay, thank God.
Wipes comically large sweat from brow. It's
exactly.
The Brig, though, I think is definitely I'm tired of this Moira going on my backline for free, and I want to beat her with a big ball of metal.
Exactly. And we did see Prankster winning some 1v1s against Yashi, but I think a Brig's just going to provide a little bit more.
Now it's kind of just down to Wumbus to get these dives onto probably track this Sojourn slide, and when she slides, just jump on top of it.
Yes, really any movement ability from the Kiri and the Moira favored 1 HP.
Thomas
finding that pick, that's good.
Kushinada won.
We did the bell being forced out there. We do see the Brig, not the Brig, the Moira, like we said, on off angles there.
Yeah.
trying to look for
I think
damage.
That's actually kind of a detriment to St. Lawrence right now. They're not able to really provide enough healing to let them let their queen consistently walk in. Fury just has to spam heals.
Yep. And now we're going to see they are going to start to walk in a little bit, as we do see Favorite getting back. Mara's falling a little low. They are falling a little low. They are just giving a little bit of space. Fuad getting counter-hacked there is not going to be good. He's going to be just barely able to not get out.
I mean, on control matches, that doesn't really matter all that much, but you give up the point? So, like, I know, like, you're trying to, like, position yourself and maybe, like, absorb, like, the attack that's coming at you, but, like, at some point, you gotta let that Winston be aggressive, you gotta, like, you gotta make the call. You can't just give up point, because you've pretty much just lost the lead that you just obtained.
You had a lead, and you were looking good. Granted, Fuad got picked off early, but you could have made something happen even sooner. Yeah. And now you've lost the lead and are kind of looking for another way to get back in. We do see Yashi on that off angle. They do look for the dive, but Yashi able to fade out.
All those heals being pumped in by the Kiriko means that she will get her rush first, but granted it won't really matter because they're getting engaged this fight at the same time.
Yep, we are going to see the rush getting mirrored here from both sides. Mars with the overclock. Kushinada falls. Mars finding that shot. We are going to see a hack onto him. Mars is going to fall, unfortunately, so they trade Sojourns. And now it's going to be down to who can find the rest of these picks. They are going to go in. The Coalescence is coming out from Yashi. They do get the point flip right before the overtime procs. But Favorite getting hacked there with the Favorite hacking and getting the EMP, but they are able to find Pranks, so there's no supports for Thomas now, as now it's just Wumbus who's going to just kind of just play a little bit slow here, trying not to die. I lied. He is going to jump back in. The overtime's going to get triggered now, though, and Mars is just kind of be stuck. Finds Yashi, but it doesn't matter at the end of the day because now the point is going to swap. And so is Wumbus for this Winston.
Great coalescence there by Yashi. Granted it gets shut down by Fuad, but it still gets enough damage and healing to let St. Lawrence kind of sustain that fight. I mean, now it's like, Mars commits his overclock, I imagine, and now Kushinada has one of his own, along with the Junker Queen ult, which basically means that Playmaster has to have no fun and hold Bell.
Yep.
So Thomas needs to hopefully be aware of that, because as soon as that bell goes off, you're going to see Blackjack just rush right in.
Yep. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens here, as Playmaster has to make this bell be huge. If this Junker Queen ult goes off, there's the bell! There it is! Yep, there's the trigger right there! You hear that noise of the bell, and it's Blackjack's signal to go in, and that's exactly what we saw. That's exactly what we wanted not to happen.
I mean, that's
just the Kiriko gameplay right there.
Yeah, I mean, you just gotta be able to track those. I mean, Wumbus, it sucks. He can't like play that aggressively because his Curie has to hold bell for that rush. Granted, you rip the band-aid off, you get it over with,
quick fight, you move on.
Going into this fight, make something happen now.
There's the EMP coming out. Winter Red Bull finding 2 picks on the Thomas' supports though is gonna make it a little bit harder for them to do anything. As even though they had the initial picks, it's still going to come down to Wumbus and Fuad on the objective, and they're going to fall here too.
I mean, I know, like, Rig is considered in some circles a Moira counter, but I kind of hard disagree because of how Orb is able to interact against Brigida's shield, and just how you don't, like, shield bash isn't going to slow Moira.
Yeah. And now we see Yashi has this coalescence. Pranksters even had a rally. We didn't even see it really go off, and now 90%, and they're not even going to get the touch.
Saying that we're gonna take the L, which sucks. Thomas only gets 2 fights for that control point.
Yeah, Yashi getting a little too aggressive, and I mean, this is what we were saying. They need to find a way to play against that Moira, and so far, they haven't really been able to do it.
Yeah, I thought it was Thomas there. I probably would have even tried to just throw a fight into that. Just throw like a dry fight there. Like, you're gonna lose, but like at least maybe you get like Kushinada's ult out or something like that.
Yeah, you get something.
You let your tank build some ult charge, because right now you're kind of going into this fight with a bit of a disadvantage.
Yeah, you are, and it's going to be a little bit rough, as who knows? Thomas is looking in a dire straits right now. It's match point here on this map.
Another EMP.
Here comes the ult into the rush. Fuad just running into the shotgun, absolutely falling over like a ragdoll. They are able to find Kushinada, who has the ult, the coalesces as well. Thomas actually coming out on top of that, as Wumbus is going to find a couple of picks as well. And even though Fuad got picked off so early on, Wumbus finding 3 to 4 picks with that annihilation, just wiping his hands, moving on to the next fight.
3 for 3 in terms of ult usage there. I mean, Thomas coming out on top, luckily, in that exchange. I think, and also Mars is probably going to build another ultimate, hopefully before Kushinada. You know, Thomas needs to be aggressive. They cannot give these points up, and they also, even if they do get the point up, they need to be able to force to be able to get more than one team fight for them.
Yeah, they need to be able to make something happen. It's like we said, it's 2-0. If they give up any progress they give up is going to be horrible. As now the EMP comes out, Wumbus is falling super low, able to get the form swap out. The Bell as well coming out. Mars is going to be super low, gonna fall there. That's unfortunate, as now they need him to be back here. They can just play for a little slow recontest here instead of getting too aggressive. The rally came out to help sustain them though. Bash on the Blackjack, not gonna find anything. Praser's gonna get hacked. It's gonna get a little risky there. They're able to find Favorite though. That's huge. Now they can, go in for another recontest. They hopefully don't throw too many more ults into it. The hack onto Kushinada is going to find the pick onto him. That's another huge pick. They need to go in. They need to make something happen. They have the advantage. They need to go. Mars on the Torbjorn now instead of the Soldier.
Wow.
Pretty interesting swap. I don't know why, but Blackjack's going to fall now. And now we're going to see Thomas actually get the swap with only a rally committed.
I mean, I guess if Mars is feeling that Torb is the best for this situation, I don't even really super disagree with it, because I think he can hit those shots, but
I think the Soldier works just fine. And now we're going to see 89, 90%. Are St. Lawrence going to recontest this? They are, as now Favorite's going to fall, though. They do mirror the rush. Here comes the rush as well. Fuad committing the EMP there. Pranksters is going to fall. We do see the Annihilation. Wumbus used his ult there. And now
4v2?
You got to wonder if Thomas just overcommitted there.
I mean, you do go 3 for 3 again. You know, it's not the end of the world. If Blackjack didn't commit his ult there, I would have been like, biting at the nails a little harder. But you're actually pretty even in terms of ult charge now. Hopefully Mars builds his up to kind of keep pace with Kushinada. But you also have to consider that Mars is probably also going to be a little bit behind the perk game too. So there's multiple layers going on here.
And if you look at it as well, Favorite's also going to have this ult, and they're not going to have any support ults for the side of Thomas to make this a little bit easier, you could say.
Yeah. I'm very curious to see what Mars is going to be doing on this tour. I'm going to be honest with him.
It's going to be very interesting.
Shots, but
yeah, he's doing things. Here we go. We do see the hack on the Favorite. An excellent tag team from Mars and Fuad there. Absolutely going crazy. They find a huge pick on the Favorite who was close to this EMP. And now Mars does have this Torbjorn ult, whatever it's called, Molten Core. Kushinada committing the overclock here, but Thomas playing smart and kind of just kiting. Prankster's falling a little low, but the Molten Core as well coming out. They're able to find Kushinada. Prankster's is going to fall, but Blackjack here is going to be really low, and they're just going to force St. Lawrence back out. But we do see Favorite and Fuad having a 1v1 on point. Actually, it's Yashi and Fuad. They get a trade. And Thomas, they're going to get the start.
Quick.
Yeah, Sombra gets back quick.
I think it cannot be understated how important it was that Thomas did not give up first capture there, because even if Thomas wins that fight right now, but they give up cap, then St. Lawrence is in like a 1-2 fight situation. So I switch over to the Mogwa now. They want to St. Lawrence really wants to just kind of like force the issue and just get on top of Thomas, I imagine. Yeah,
it's very interesting to swap onto the Mogwa here. We're gonna see the form being used by Wumbus immediately. Gonna put a lot of pressure on the support line. We do see the rally coming out from Prankster trying to sustain, try to make something happen. They need to try to make, walk forward, maybe make a play happen. But here we go. They maybe suspected that the EMP was coming, but unfortunately, because they took so long, Favorite just pulled the trigger first. Mars here and Fuad finding a couple of picks. Wumpa is going to fall as well as Mars, and unfortunately, because they took a little bit too long to make something happen, Favorite trying to find a pick on the Fuad is going to get that pick.
That is going to hurt.
I heard him in the background there. Even he wasn't happy about that. But Thomas just a little too passive there.
Yeah, you can't just back up against the Mogwa. I would have liked to have seen Pranksters and Wumbus get active with their abilities there, especially when they had rally. They have rally. But now I imagine we're going to see a rush to kind of engage into this fight. Fuad at least does get back pretty quick, and then Mars hopefully cover up the ground.
Here comes the Kitsune rush. Prankster falling a little bit low. We are going to see they are just going to go in, start brawling. They're going to try to make something happen. You do see St. Lawrence trying to kite back out. Trying to find Favorite a little bit low. The Kitsune Rush coming out a little bit. We do see the Torbjorn ult coming out. It's a beautiful Torbjorn ult completely denying the Kitsune Rush. And it's going to force St. Lawrence around. They do get the cap. Fuwad's going to fall, but Thomas have these ults to commit. They don't have this EMP anymore. They are going to kite back just a little bit though. I don't know why, but they are losing members. That's why now comes out the Annihilation as they're going to try to make something happen. He's just going to get bursted down as the point flips over. Thomas,
It's
you're
down
in
to the wire now.
desperation
And
mode.
EMP can hard counter this Magua ult, but now it's up to like Kushinada. If he gets a pick like on like the Brigida or the Sojourn before this fight even starts, I mean that's game. I mean it's literally just game.
That is just game. I do agree.
Fuad
Here
will
comes
be
the
able to get
cage.
this
Fuad
touch.
going around into the back line, trying to make something happen. The EP comes out. They did find Wumbus already, and Fuad's
They
going
don't
to
get a
fall.
touch, though.
And no one from Thomas is able to get a touch. And unfortunately, St. Lawrence is going to be the one who takes away Samoa. Not some. I did it again. Saravasa from Thomas College.
I mean, Magua's just such a lame hero. But when it kind of comes down, I mean, you can see how Mars is getting absolutely a ton of value, just headshot pressure on a lot of these heroes.
Yep.
I think it just comes down to like Thomas not taking full advantage of the rally there. Like I think actually what it was rally was active, but Wumbus didn't have his cooldowns ready, so they kind of just had to kind of shield kite. So how that is just unfortunate.
It is very unfortunate indeed. As like I said, like they had the rally, they had the tools they needed to kind of like take a little bit of space there. They were almost up to a couple of ultimates too. The Annihilation, the Kitsune Rush. They were in a good spot to look for a fight there, but just that passiveness allowed Favor to pull the trigger instead, finding a huge EMP and just getting a clean team wipe off of the rip, which you could argue is the reason that they kind of lost that last point at least.
I wouldn't even say that was passive. I'd say that was more just like indetermination.
I would say so too.
Sapi. So I imagine we'll be seeing a Colosseo pick. I think Mars coming back in for that to play the Sigma, with Wumbus probably going over to the Torb and Soj.
Probably we'll see Colosseo.
Mars's Torb didn't look bad.
It didn't look bad at all. It looked pretty solid. I mean, we saw we saw a good ultimate. We saw some good shots and stuff.
The only actual asterisk there is if instead of Molten coring he kind of stacked it all in one place, if he had moved it over to the side there, it would have actually denied the rotate over on the right side as well, and it would have let Thomas like get a kind of a bit more of a solid ground and get their cooldowns back.
Yeah, that is true. He did ult there onto the Kitsune Rush. Yeah, it was stacked onto the Kitsune Rush, which was pretty solid, but like you said, if they moved it over to that right side, it would have forced them out of just a little bit longer on that side too. And in a game like Overwatch, as much time as you can get, it matters. If you can save time and like make time for your team to build ultimates and build the tools that they need to win fights like that, it's amazing, even if it's a few seconds.
I mean, we criticize out of love, I mean, I think Thomas definitely, like, they have not, like, I think it now just kind of comes down to just being able to kind of keep your head in the game and kind of keep pushing forward, being able to shut down these, you're going to be able, at least the advantage of losing maps is now you at least now get to pick the maps, I imagine we'll be seeing a Colosseo on the side of Thomas, a map which they've been scrimming, they're fairly comfortable on, they've been reviewing, so it's all connected should hopefully bring Thomas a map win to deny it going into match point, because I think it's not until it gets to match point where it's like really scary. Like you can lose like 2 maps, and it's not. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. The momentum hasn't gone all the way. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Like a best of 3. So being able to hopefully like win Colosseo and then hopefully put yourself in a good position to win the map after that.
It's hopefully. I mean, you would hope so, because, I mean, Thomas is still looking pretty strong. They have the capabilities to make things happen. So hopefully, they keep their head in the game. They keep their motivation up. Be like, it's fine. It's 1-2. We still got plenty of time. Could make it happen. Thomas seemed to be delegating right now just to make sure they get their game plan going, what they want to do. Can't wait to see what they do, because I know sometimes we see a complete mix-up. I mean, we've seen it before. It was a different tournament altogether, but we did see Playmaster on Zarya there for a while, and it was crazy. So I'm definitely excited to see what happens after they do a little bit of delegation. But for now, we will just hit a BRB while we wait. I know I
Yes.
could use a little BRB because
Same
yeah,
here.
a little dying on the voice, but we will be back after a short little break.
Catch you soon.
Okay, I am back, and it looks like we are almost ready to go into the next game. As we predicted, it is going to be the
Continue
Coliseo
with
pick.
the prod R.
Oh yes,
I'm
Prod
here.
R now. So we're gonna see, cause it's gonna be very interesting. Cause it is Coliseo, like we said. Pokey actually coming back in instead of Wumbus. Mars going to be on the tank role this time.
I think it's because Pokey's definitely been the person like playing these Coliseum maps. You know, he's been pretty active about them. So he's been pretty active on like during the scrims and stuff like that. So that's why we're seeing him here instead of Wumbus. Because I think they do just aren't going to keep. I think they're sticking to this tour.
Probably this
However, I
Torb
want
has
it.
just been just kind of what they've been playing all the time. So it would make sense to stick to it. Oh my goodness.
Oh my.
Oh my goodness. St. Lawrence taking advantage of a bathroom break as well, real quick. Understandable.
Yeah.
It's a long series
It's all.
ahead.
Mm-hmm. It's not like
And
surgery. You don't gotta be here the entire time. You know.
exactly, But they could also just use this time to talk a little bit as well. Try to make sure their
Yeah.
game plan is good too.
He said a few of the mentals. You know.
Yep.
Don't stress out too much about each and every map. You know. It's not the last. It's not even the last map. You know. But
Exactly. That's a huge part of just the competitive scene overall when it comes to really anything. It's just like keeping the mental up in a longer series, especially. Even though Thomas is down 1-2 and sometimes fights don't go your way, oh, they're ready. They ready. I didn't even
yeah.
see that they readied up. But even though a fight's not going your way, keep the mental up. Maybe the next one goes your way. You know?
Yeah.
So
I mean,
getting a little small break in there can kind of help. get like the adrenaline down a little bit, get you kind of like back into it. You know, you can shake your hands a little bit, take a stretch.
Yeah.
The mental health is just as important as the physical when it comes to video games, to the competitive scene.
I hope everyone got enough sleep last night. You ever notice how much better you are at video games after you get 8 hours of sleep versus 6?
I think you're just better at a lot of things, not just video games.
Like a lot of things gonna come easier, but yeah. I imagine, it's probably the same comment that we'll be seeing. We'll think no Bap Zen. I mean, the Mercy.
I think it's just the haha funny from Pranksters yet again.
I'm surprised we haven't seen the Bap Zen, because that's kind of what they seem to be, a little bit behind the scenes action, seem to be preferencing, but I think with knowing that St. Lawrence will probably keep playing the Sojourn and the Sombra, they're just saying like, if we played Bap Zen, we're gonna have to switch anyway, so why even bother? Granted, they did get their first and only map win so far with Bap Zen, so
that is true.
Pranksters on the Moira, I think, wants to give a little bit of their own medicine to.
I think he wants to give that medicine right back to Yashi.
Yeah.
As we will see, it's pretty much just a comp mirror, except for that Sojourn and Torbjorn.
Yeah, I mean,
gonna be a little different there.
I mean, you gotta probably favor the Sojourn in the setup.
Just a bit. I would say just a bit. We do see Mars gets hacked there, falling a little bit low as well. The Bell being forced out there, as well as the form swap from Mars. Yashi taking such an aggressive angle. I mean, look at this. It has to fade out immediately, though. Mars falls from the front line. Pranksters falls as well, and I mean...
Thomas is now just on the back foot. You see how much more aggressive Yashi has been compared to Pranksters just in that first few moments? What is it? Because I think, honestly, a lot of it has to do with the Sojourn. The Sojourn's able to output so much damage into Mars that the Moira pretty much has to stay kind of, like, pocketing them. So, I mean, we're into the second fight now on push, which is arguably the most important. Basically,
definitely the most important.
Whether or not Thomas is going to be able to deny this first checkpoint, which is the most important thing in the world.
Yeah. There's a call here to drop. Playmaster finds favor. That's a nice pick there. Kushinada as well falling. That's a good way to start this out, as now Thomas is Mars and Blackjack just duking it out over here, fisticuff style. But Thomas comes out on top of that fight there and able to find the picks that they need to stop them from getting that checkpoint.
And a cheeky pick by Pokey will let them kind of assure that they'll get a little bit of progress off of this. What is it? Playmaster actually beating Winter Bowl to the rush, which I think is no surprise because Mars will be taking probably a boatload of damage. But now it's a question of, after this rush is committed, what Thomas is going to be choosing to try and use in these fights.
Yes, as the ult economy looking pretty similar for both teams there. The rush coming out from Playmaster, trying to take the advantage
rush
here.
Rush denied by the bot.
The bot denied the rush. That is not what you want. The coalescence from Yashi as well coming out. They are able to find favor. The mirror coalescence coming out from Prankster as well is going to actually keep them alive there, as they are able to kind of keep the progress going. So, I mean, Thomas is kind of winning this fight right now.
Yep,
and there it is. There's the annihilation onto Kushinada specifically. Finds Kushinada, and Thomas, Playmaster fighting favored as well. I mean, Thomas is just looking really solid right here, and they take the lead.
Yeah, I mean, Thomas actually I think is in a pretty decent spot to probably get this first checkpoint. They're taking these, they need to keep taking these aggressive angles, and they will get the first checkpoint.
Yeah, they get the first checkpoint, they get the lead, and they now are using the
second shields. Perfect.
The Molten Core here, the Torble, yeah.
You would have loved to have seen it thrown a little further back, because right now it's just inside of Thomas's kind of zone. I guess it denies the ram, but, I mean...
Still, this is and here come a bunch of ultimates. They need to be ready.
Yeah.
A huge EMP from Favored onto Thomas's line. They are able to sustain a bit, and then another raid. Okay, wait, hold on a minute. What the heck happened to Thomas? Not that I'm complaining as a Thomas fan, but this is insane.
Yeah, I mean, Thomas, they're putting their foot on the gas. They are not slowing down. They are running into, I mean, not to damper anyone's parades, but like they're going into 3 ults now.
Almost 4.
Pranksters, almost 4. Yeah, Pranksters go to zone, but that's the perfect situation for Thomas to force
Playmaster using the Kitsune Rush so early here.
Mars gets one.
Mars gets one.
Bell.
The Bell doesn't find it. Here comes the Annihilation. As finds Pokey. Mars and Pranksters in the back line, though, finding so many picks. They find Yoshi! They find... Oh my god! Blackjack's falling a little bit low. We do see the overclock coming out from Kushinada to try to stop them from pushing too far forward. Mars is going to fall eventually after the form swap. Fuwad's going to fall as well. Prankster's able to find Blackjack, but Kushinada finds 3 with a 4th from Winter Red Bull, and I mean, that was just baffling what we saw there.
That is perfect for Thomas there. I mean, you do use 2 ultimates there, but you get Kushinada's ult out and you get Yanashi's ult out, which are going to be so impactful in these upcoming fights. I'm swallowing a hair as I speak, but I can't stop talking.
And Blackjack as well.
Crazy.
I mean, Blackjack had to use the Annihilation there and only found Pokey with it. And now Thomas, even though they used a lot of ults, they have the Annihilation. They're almost to another Torb ult, and Fuwad's half to an EMP as the bot gets back to the center.
I mean, forward spawn will be denied by St. Louis, which sucks a little bit, but now you
Here comes that Kitsune Rush. Mars going with the Annihilation to try to block that. Gets absolutely decimated. Too much damage to try to sustain through. Pokey is going to fall shortly after, and now Thomas is just going to be on the back foot yet again to try to reset before too many of them fall just like that.
I mean, I appreciate the initiative, but you have to acknowledge that, yeah, you're denying the rush, but you're not really, because the rush isn't, like, going away. They're still doing, like, double
Yoshi gets punished there, being a little too far up. They do get the close checkpoint, so it's not the biggest mistake in the world, but now Thomas is going to have the number advantage. They do commit the Molten Core here. Not really the greatest, but it does get the ult out and used. They can cycle it through again. Favorite here is going to fall. The May ult does not come out. It would have been amazing to see if you're a Thomas fan, but does not come out. And now actually they are having to push the bot, but they could choose to take a little bit of an aggressive angle here to try and find some picks before Favorite gets back on this May.
I mean, you at least want to deny this forward spawn, at the very least for Thomas.
Yep, they've denied the forward spawn, and now Blackjack with the forward swap is going to try to sustain just a little bit. Bot getting a little contested. Mars gets super low. We do see Fuwad fall, getting a little too aggressive there. And now they go with the Coalescence. The mirrored Coalescence, not going to matter too much as Playmaster is going to fall. Prankster having to fade away just to try to get around the wall isn't going to get much value from it. And Thomas, they did manage to get the bot back to the center, but now they're going to be in dire straits yet again.
There, but the fact that Mars falls there means that they're going to be getting a bunch of free bot progress, you know, and I'm willing to bet they're not going to make it easy for Thomas to recontest unless they really stack on this cart. I mean, you'd want to be taking these kind of longer sight lines, especially with the May and the Sojourn, but it looks like just probably the May taking it, but 4, 5, all 5 on cart, you know, rounding the corner now.
Yeah.
For St. Lawrence, I mean, Thomas is in a decent position with this EMP and hopefully this rush to kind of make something happen, but they need to hit the go button now before they lose too much of their lead.
Yeah. Here comes the Annihilation as well with the Kitsune Rush. It's going to come out here. They do manage to... Mars falling there. Prankster's getting a little bit low too. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens here.
You gotta wonder why Thomas was waiting so long. They had so many ults. You know, Ford's been sitting on this EMP forever, and now St. Lawrence is going to finish the map.
Yeah, they're going to finish the map here. It's getting real close. Fuad with a huge EMP onto the back lane there. Gets a few members there to find Kushinada. Blackjack's Favorite finds Fuad though. Blackjack going to be on point here with the Annihilation. It's going to find Playmaster. Favorite is in there. It's just Mars on point now. There's not really much they can do. Pokey's coming back. Playmaster's the only one on point. Prankster's the only one on point with the Moira. They're almost able to find Blackjack with the Coalescence coming out from Yoshi, as well as the Kitsune Rush. That should just be the closure of the map, as it's just Fuad trying to do his darndest, unable to do much more. And
I've said it once and I'll say it again. Heartbreaking for Thomas to get such a strong lead and then give it up just because you take so long to re-engage onto that cart. Oh, it just hurts to see.
It hurts to see indeed. As now, it's looking a little rough for Thomas per se.
I mean, Thomas, you've proven you can hold your own, and I want to. Ooh, he took the healing perk its way through this week. I want to see Thomas keep pushing these advantages, but they just take so long. I'm not sure if they're trying and set up for like the perfect fight, or they're trying to like bait something out. But sometimes you need to take the initiative because you had Rush EMP. You know, surely you can get something with that instead of having to throw it desperately on the end of the map.
I do agree. I mean, Thomas had such a huge advantage for such a long time as well. I feel like they should have definitely pushed the advantage a lot more than they did. they were in a good spot to make something happen, to try to get at least a little farther, maybe. But unfortunately, St. Lawrence was just kind of...
If you're Thomas, you have to lock in so hard now because, excuse me, you pretty much need to win a series, if that makes any sense. You need to win you need to win a series against St. Lawrence without dropping a single map.
Yep. You need to pretty much essentially a reverse sweep, almost. And that's stressful if you're Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
You've now hit the point of, we cannot afford to mess up that much.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's over, and it's finals. If it's over, it's over.
And yeah, I don't even think it's like individual like playmaking that's failing Thomas at this point. I think it's just the fact that like it's just like an overall kind of what is it, like, I'm not gonna say like it's a team effort, but it just kind of comes down to like hopefully someone on Thomas is making those calls to push forward, you know.
Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, they just weren't able to necessarily do that. As it's going to be hybrid next.
It's what won them. I mean, granted, not all things are, you know, transferable, but you won on circuit with it. Transcendence is a good ult. It's one of those like ults you can kind of have into really any composition. Like, the only thing it doesn't really help with is like Junker Queen ult, but even then, it's not that bad. It at least keeps the Zen alive.
It does, and we're gonna see what Thomas is gonna be able to do here. As, like we said, it's pretty.
You're playing a dangerous game. You're playing a very, very dangerous game. It's not over yet. You know, Thomas, I think, is pretty comfortable on Midtown. They've had some pretty good performances on Midtown. So it is not over. But you also have to consider now, after Midtown, you know, it'll be St. Lawrence picking the maps after this, which is going to suck. But you don't worry about that if you're Thomas right now. Take each map in its own isolation. You know, don't worry about the rest of the series. Pretend you're going in fresh. You know, just keep yourself locked in. It's stressful. I know. I mean, I think actually, like, a few of these players are like freshmen, or at least people who have not been in this kind of a more intense situation before, because it is quite intense. You know, like, this is the grand finals. I mean, hey, at least at the end of the day, you're walking away at second place, which doesn't, you know, I think should still be commended, even if it does happen. But I think Thomas definitely has a shot at completing this series at a 4-3.
They do have the chance. I do agree.
Yeah,
and we have seen them come back from a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the ultimate underdog, as you could say, the ultimate terrier, the Thomas Terriers.
Yeah. They are the underdog. That is true.
Yeah. I mean, I think Thomas is like, aren't they like the 4th seed in this competition? They took out the 1st seed to get to this position.
I believe so, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah. And now it's time for Thomas to really show us what they're made of.
It is, and I'm excited to see what they try to pull out here. And what they pull out is the same exact thing.
Same exact thing. The Torbjorn. The Torbjorn scares me. It's not that it's bad. It's more just, no way Prankster plays Alari, right? Like,
we've seen Prankster play Alari, so it's a little more possible, you could say.
I guess, but if you wanted a playmaker with little, who was very vulnerable and little healing, you'd play Zen.
I feel like Zen definitely.
Or Moira. I imagine actually we might even see the match on the Moira. The Juno actually I don't hate, because it lets potentially Mars out tempo Blackjack with sort of the with the speed ring, and the missiles can provide a little bit of damage on the back line and some bursts sustained. It's a dangerous game if you're Thomas. Blackjack getting super low. Bell already committed.
Yeah, and Fuad falling immediately.
That is not a good start.
Not a good start.
Kushinada has had his number this entire series, it feels like sometimes. And Fuad immediately going over to the Reaper, you know, he does not want to play this game. Ooh.
Yeah,
Yashi. Yeah. this I think really just comes down to the amount of pressure that like Mei Sojourn is putting on Mars. It is so you watching it's so hard for him to take space because so much damage, the icicle headshots, the railgun shots just coming his way, and Juno Kiri can put out some decent healing, but it's not enough.
It's not really enough at all. I mean, we're going to be seeing, hopefully Thomas is able to make something happen a little bit more with this Reaper now, as well as the Juno, but it's going to be a little interesting to see, as now we do see the ultimate is kind of in favor of St. Lawrence here, as now they are going into turret, going to try to find a brawl now. They're able to force the people back, Prankster's going to fall, Yoshi able to find that pick and able to fade out unpunished. And now it's going to be a little risky as they're playing for this fire truck here, and they're down. They're very low HP. They only have Playmaster to sustain them, and it's not going to be enough.
Thomas take the space, but it's so hard for them to get any sort of like CC or pressure onto this kind of backline for St. Lawrence. And like the Mei, just goes into ice block. She can use ice wall. Lets Blackjack essentially win the matchup with Mars. You see Mars is even getting more damage, but like Blackjack just has positioning advantage, because essentially at any point in the fight, Favor could just go, all right, Mars, good fight. You don't have supports anymore, so good luck. So like hopefully you just you win those.
Yeah.
Yep. You can see it even there. They probably they have to head around, but Bell committed. That should be hopefully a go sign for Thomas. Yep.
Yep, there's the rush as well. The Blizzard coming out finds Mars and Playmaster as well. I mean, Thomas has to kite out yet again. 1 minute 40 seconds on the clock left.
I mean, Thomas, you're nowhere near to any other ult except for Mars, and St. Lawrence is sitting on 3. Ugh, this is your map pick. You should have a plan going into this. I mean, it's not over yet. Mars could hit a pretty devastating annihilation before anything can happen, but I'm worried Yashi's just going to be able to kite in the far back line with this Coalescence, and Thomas has very little they can do to counter it.
Exactly. We do see Mars here taking the aggressive angle here on to the annihilation here into the back line, trying to make something happen. He does the same thing. Blackjack does the same thing. It finds Pokey. The Russian Coalescence being committed as well. Mars just running in, finds a Winter Red Bull.
Mars on the back line.
I mean, Mars is just running them down.
At least he gets an elim.
But it's still not enough, as Fuad and Mars are going to fall, and now it's 50 seconds left.
You have 3 ults going into none. This fight should be one on the side of Thomas, bearing some extravagant pick by Favored or Kushinada before the fight even starts. You got 3 ults out on the side of St. Lawrence with just Mars' ult. So now hopefully you can use that and make something happen with it.
You gotta hope so. I mean, there's 30 seconds left. Trying to go in now. We do hear the Satellite Vector coming out. He's looking for a Death Blossom now. The Satellite Vector comes out. They are able to walk in. He's looking for it. It's pretty big there. He finds 1. He finds 2. Finds 3 off of, excuse me, the Molten Core. And that's exactly what Thomas needs to make something happen. Poke falling from Kushinada, who is 1 HP, should fall here just in a second. But that's exactly what Thomas needs.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks having to use both Poke's ult and Fuad's ult there to really get that happening, but, I mean, Thomas, you're in a 5v4 right now. It's one kind of advantage that you have. Kushinada does fall and does get the bad spawn. So, hopefully now you can kind of take this forward space. You don't have to play around this choke, force them to play around this high ground. But, again, the ult economy does not favor Thomas at all. I mean, Playmaster does have his ult out, but, like, it could be pretty decently countered by Favored's ult. And that's assuming he even builds it in time.
And I mean, if anything, they can just kite it.
Bell committed.
Bell committed. Mars falling so fast there. Not good at all if you're Thomas.
No ults even committed on the side of St. Lawrence, so now this economy is going to swing even more in their favor.
It is. It's looking a little bit rough. Mars is close to another annihilation.
Yeah, you ever hear of the Fear and Greed Index? Because right now, Thomas's economy is being decided by fear.
Yeah. I would say so.
Playmaster, I think this rush needs to isolate a target and get one right away. Maywall kind of sort of counters it.
Here comes the Mei Blizzard. Mars is going to unfortunately be stuck in it. Is not going to fall just yet. He does live. Fuad dying in the backline though is not going to help them at all. Mars getting walled off and shielded off. Not good. This is Kushinada is able to find so much value there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad he didn't commit the Transcendence there, but the Torb just isn't working. I hate to keep rubbing it in, but I just really do not think that the Torb is working against this Sojourn in May.
I
They
don't
put
think
out
so at
so
all.
much more long-range damage and consistent long-range damage than Torb. Ugh. I mean, Mars, again, he needs to make something happen with this Annihilation. You know, we might see something similar to before where Thomas commits one ult and then they're going to commit all 4 on the side of St. Lawrence to really try and isolate out the fight, but you can already see the difference. Mars falls before he can even do anything.
Immediately. I mean, the rotation hadn't even come out, really. It was just Mars just falls, and now Thomas is going to have to sit there and wait.
I mean,
30 seconds left.
You can't just sit there and wait. I mean, you're so split if you're Thomas, you know. Pranksters and Tor. I mean, I'm surprised the St. Lawrence isn't capitalizing on this.
Yeah, and I mean, now they haven't, but...
Ults, this Annihilation by Mars has to go huge. It needs to get
Here
something.
it comes. Gets mirrored as well as the Coalescence and the Overclock. Blackjack in the backline trying to find something. Mars able to find a pick. Is going to fall, though. Oh, didn't even find a pick. And
Thomas doesn't even touch.
They don't even get a touch off.
Oh, that's salt in the wound.
That is some salt in the wound.
Especially with Fuad so close to his Death Blossom there to hopefully maybe make something happen. Again, it's like the it's like on circuit, you know, you at least want to try. You know, even if you lose the fight, you at least want to, like, say you gave it your all. Oh, that is some salt. I mean, it is possible that Thomas full holds this. I think the Torb is definitely preferred on defense over attack, just in, like,
so much more
most
preferred on
situations.
Defense.
But I mean, it's not like Thomas is not out here. I don't think their ability to kind of full hold this should be underestimated. But again, just it always feels like they're on such like a losing battle in these fights. Oh, Mars actually on the Torb. Will we actually see, or Mars on the Sigma, I should say. I think the BAP Zen is probably going to come out. I mean, if they're going to keep playing this May, you do kind of need a Zen and potentially even a BAP to kind of keep up the healing. Please don't tell me he's playing Alari.
He might be playing Alari.
Oh no, bro. That's fine. I mean, Alari actually does give some pretty decent damage potential into like these the kind of more like into Kushinada and favorite. Maybe, probably not. I mean, healing pylon will hopefully let Mars stay up, but it's just gonna be such an easy target for favorite and Kushinada to take, especially because they have shown there's been no resistance into letting them kind of like get into these choke points.
There really hasn't, and I'm
Mars
worried
needs to be
about what's
aware
going to
of the
happen.
May. I mean, the chart's already down, you know.
Here we can see St. Lawrence here trying to go in, trying to find something off the beginning. Just going to play a beautiful pick immediately. Good start. Going to burn a little bit more time off. That's exactly what you need. Like I said, even if it's a few seconds, you need those, especially if you're Thomas here.
Yeah, Thomas, if you're Thomas, you're fighting tooth and nail for every second that you can get on this first control point.
Exactly.
You know, maybe you can even just hold it out altogether, but I mean, I guess, like, you know, the Alari is putting out some decent damage onto this backline, you know, making, you know, denying a little bit of space for the sake, but
For what falling early is not good at all. That's a DPS down. Pokey the Limp having to be commit. The Alari turret going down. Now they're on the back foot. They're just backing up. They're having to kite back. No one's in a good position here. Prankster falling super low. Mars falling low as well. Gonna be a little risky here. Pokey's going to fall. Mars is going to fall. And they're,
if you're Mars, you're able to get so much damage onto St. Lawrence, but it just doesn't really matter. You know, they're able to sustain themselves with that Moira. It's like, you know, just providing so much cleaving heals into the team, you know? I mean, I know it's like always said, like, poke beats brawl, but I'm not so sure about that right now. I mean, Thomas needs to hold this, like, you know, the cart will get to be a little bit of free push for now. I mean, Thomas needs to hold this corner right now, or it's the end of the series.
They need to hold this, or it is just over. Pokey falling is not what they want. The flex coming out as well as the rush, and the coalescence, and the Alari, I don't even know what it's called. A huge pick on a Prankster, though, is going to allow St. Lawrence to try to make something happen here. A lot of things being committed. Playmaster's going to fall. No supports for the side of Thomas. Mars is going to fall. There's 3 on the card. It's just Fuad. And that is going to be it in this series. Kind of a heartbreaking way for it to end.
I know. I mean, GG to Thomas and St. Lawrence. I mean, Thomas, I mean, you can certainly say, like, I don't think they gave up. You know, I think, you know, they tried their hardest the whole way through, and second place in the NECC for a team that's like never really played together before. I mean,
you still take those.
Yeah, I mean, you take those. I think it just kind of comes down to a lot of just like kind of like hero rosters or not hero rosters, but like hero pools and things like that. I mean, oh, heartbreaking some of those losses, especially with feels like a pretty decent amount of C9s being committed by on the side of Thomas, which just breaks your heart if you're a fan. But I'm still very, very proud. I don't.
My Discord. Oh no! Oh no! The Discord crashed.
I love the performance that this team put out tonight. I look forward to seeing what they do in the future, and I think even though it was a loss, I think they should still be very, very proud of what they did in this series and in the kind of the tournament bracket as a whole.
I do agree. They've gone so far and have done so amazing overall that they should definitely, even though it hurts to lose, I know losing sucks. No one likes to lose. I mean, come on. We all like to win. It's just how it is. But they've still done so well, so amazing, and definitely, as you said, I'm very proud of them for how they have worked together, especially since, like you said, it's kind of their first season really playing.
Yeah, and like I don't think any individual player should like themselves up about I don't think it was like any individual fault on the side of any of Thomas for that loss. I think it just kind of comes down to I think St. Lawrence played really, really well as a team, and like mechanically they just had like very, very good players. But
yeah,
hey, I mean, I don't think there's too much to say, to be perfectly honest. But
I can agree. I mean, we could talk on and on and on, but I think at the end of the day, it was just a very close, very good game. St. Lawrence came out on top, and even though they're second place, they should still be proud that they have gotten this far.
Absolutely.
And so with that, I mean, if we got nothing else to say, I mean, I think we just wrap up the stream. So, thank you again. Thank you, Cargo Tokens, for coming out and casting as much as you did.
Anytime.
And I want to thank you all for tuning in and watching the NECC Grand Finals with Thomas versus St. Lawrence. GG's to both teams. It was hard fought, well earned. But that is going to be the end of Overwatch for the rest of the season. Please follow us on Thomas College Esports on Twitch so that way you never miss a notification for when we go live. And then follow us on Thomas Esports on Instagram and Twitter or X, whatever you prefer to call it, because there may still be one more stream that happens in the future. Can't say yet, but there's a potential. I do know that. So, follow us on those platforms so you never miss a notification for when we go live, or little clips of the days, or anything like that. And with that, I mean, we'll see you next time, whenever that may be.